What's going on, guys? It is Blicker here. Today I just wanted to talk you through my favorite Barb build from the Diablo 4 beta. Barbs have been catching a fair bit of hate, rightfully so, particularly at lower gear levels and without sort of putting some time and effort into the character, um, which is completely fair. Barbs feel really pretty bad to level. They don't do a lot of damage, they're not super survivable, but with gear, I think Barb is one of the strongest classes in the game, barring some broken Necromancer stuff, so we're going to talk about it. We're going to go through this in basically three parts. We're going to talk about the skill tree first, then we're going to go to the gear, and finally we'll finish with a dungeon. So starting with the skill tree, we'll just talk about the skills that I'm using. Whirlwind is our main damage dealer for a couple of reasons. One, because it's mobility, and secondly, because it scales well with some of the legendary properties that are available. But let's have a look at the skill tree to start. So currently I'm using Frenzy just as a basic attack. We're getting the additional attack speed and Fury, and we're getting some additional attack speed to other skills per Fury stack. That's basically just quality of life. You can also run this damage reduction if you want. I do play on hardcore, so this damage reduction is very, very good when you're starting out. Just make sure you stay alive. Next up, we've got Whirlwind. So we've got a couple of extra points from gear into Whirlwind. Those are coming from gloves. But we're getting some extra Fury when we hit an enemy, and extra Fury against elites. And we're doing 30% increased damage if we channel for a while. The way that this build plays, you do want to be channeling Whirlwind for a while. You don't want to be stutter stepping your Whirlwinds. You want to get full Fury, bank up, and then cast your Whirlwind for a bit until things are dead. We're using Rallying Cry. This is one of the strongest abilities that I personally think Barb has. 50% resource generation and move speed by 30% is insanely strong. This also helps out your allies. You can also get Unstoppable, which is fantastic in hardcore. And you can get another 50% resource generation, which is just absurd. That brings you up to a total of 100% increased resource generation, which for Whirlwind, which uses a lot of Fury, is very, very strong. Challenging Shout. You could drop this. I would keep this for hardcore, but you don't really need Challenging Shout. It's an okay defensive cooldown. The way that I like to utilize Challenging Shout is to run past some stuff that is not dense enough for me to want to kill immediately. And following that, I will turn around and fight the things that have followed me because I've taunted them. Carrying on, we've got Warcry. Warcry is a damage buff. It's not a huge damage buff, but you can get Berserking when you Warcry, which is good, and we do have ways to sustain Berserking, so that's a good buff to be able to get. Additionally, you can increase the damage bonus to 30%, which is effectively doubling the baseline. You may have noticed we're using 3 Warcries, so on this level 25 version, we're running Shout skill effect durations, very good, and you can get some passive healing. This isn't much healing, but you kind of may as well be taking it because you're running 3 Shouts. We're getting a bit of Berserking scaling. This in particular will be very good for a Whirlwind build once we can max it out, but there just aren't enough points at level 25. And finally, we've got Wrath of the Berserker. This is another source of Unstoppable and another source of Berserking. Additionally, you get movement speed, some extra Fury generation, although not much compared to Rallying Cry. And when you spend Fury, you increase Berserk's damage bonus, which can get quite strong when you're extending the duration of your Berserk past the default 5 seconds. So that's basically the skill tree. So as you see, 3 Warcries, Wrath of the Berserker, Frenzy, and Whirlwind. Let's talk about the gear because the gear is absolutely mandatory to make Whirlwind builds work. So this legendary power Whirlwind pulls enemies to you is extremely strong. It's huge quality of life. Additionally, if you remember, Whirlwind gets additional Fury per enemy hit, and this just pulls enemies in so that you're hitting more enemies. I would say that this is basically mandatory to make Whirlwind feel good. It's playable without this, but you really, really want this. Talk about another super impactful legendary effect. This is sort of what this build's damage is based around. This is why Whirlwind does a ton of damage. Obviously, this is a perfect roll, which is really lucky, but I would say that you need you need this legendary power, and you want it on a two-hand for the boosted effect that it gets on a two-hander. This basically says that when you overcap your Fury, you get extra damage on your next core skill up to 240%. From my testing, the way this is felt, it feels like this damage bonus gets snapshotted for the whole Whirlwind as long as you continue channeling and don't get interrupted. And so this is one of the main reasons why you want to be casting Whirlwind when you're fully stacked on your next core skill, doing 240% damage. You basically snapshot that bonus, and then you spin until things are dead. This is also a super impactful legendary power. It's also reasonably rolled. Skills deal additional damage based on your available primary resource. Again, we need to overcap our Fury to enable this, so this is basically 66% extra damage just for doing what we were already doing. Moving on from that, we do have, I believe it's on, yeah, so attacking enemies with a basic skill increases the damage of your next core skill cast. Effectively, if we attack three times, 4 times, we're getting 50% extra damage on our next Whirlwind, which is great because we're going to be attacking to build up some Fury. Shout skills generate Fury passively. This is somewhat impactful. This is just really nice for sustaining Fury and sustaining Whirlwind, basically keeping your pace. This is an insanely strong legendary power, and it's probably worth wearing on a neck instead of this legendary power, because not on a neck this would be 10% per basic attack. So if you are fighting a boss, you can afford to attack 5 times to get this stacked as opposed to like 3.5. But this will go up to 60% cap with a perfect roll, which is an absurd amount of crit chance. You can basically be, I imagine you can be hitting crit cap at max level with this legendary power. This also basically enables you to scale into things like critical strike damage and be getting a massive benefit from those kind of stats. Beyond that, we sort of have some damage reduction, survivability type things. We've got basic attacks grant damage reduction. We have, oh, sorry, this is a really good damage stat as well. Crits with core skills increase your attack speed. Whirlwind hits really quite frequently, so you get some additional attack speed from this. This is an awful roll on the legendary power, but it is a very good legendary power. We do generate a small amount of Fortify, which is fine. Fortify is not, in my opinion, it's not the most important stat, but it's fine to get a bit of Fortify on one piece of gear. This could be swapped pretty easily, though. Damaging enemy with a core skill has a 30% chance to extend the duration of berserking. This is sort of what you want to be leveraging when you are playing with Wrath of the Berserker, where you get extra damage per Fury spent. So your crits double the duration extension. So basically every time you crit during your berserking, this is going to extend the duration of that berserking by 2 seconds for crits, which is quite good because berserking's movement speed and damage, so pretty reasonable. This is kind of a throwaway. This could be a better legendary stat, but it is some additional bleed damage things, not really necessary. And this is a very good damage modifier. It basically summons a ghost you that whirlwinds when you hit things. It's a lucky hit chance, so it doesn't happen necessarily all the time. It's not 100% uptime, so it's not like double damage or anything, but it is quite impactful. So yeah, certainly not bad. But with all that said, we'll go into some gameplay. So Rallying Cry is fantastic for transiting between packs. Remembering that we do get some Fury generation from one of our legendary powers. And we basically only want to be killing the pack, and then we want to be preserving Fury for the next pack that we run into that we want to kill. You can keep track of your buff down at the bottom. So you want this to be at 240 anytime you start whirlwinding, and for really chunky stuff, you also want this to be at 45 or 50. So this does sort of still play like a generator spender type build, with the caveat that you can spend for a fair bit longer with Whirlwind than you could with a normal skill. As far as the top end damage potential for this, critical strike damage scaling is very, very good, like I mentioned. And so the top end scaling's probably quite high. At level 25, I've seen crits as high as 9 or 10,000, which is plenty of damage for T2 content. Yeah, but that's sort of the types of numbers that you can expect to see just at this difficulty level with this kind of gear. Some of my gear is farmed off Oscar and upgraded, so it is stronger than the level 17 required gear that you might see. But like you can see, packs are no problem. One of the places that I would say this build suffers is in clearing out, what would you call them, sort of intermittent mobs. I could kill this pack, but it's not necessarily desirable to be killing everything, because if you run your Fury down too low, you have to spend a lot of time just stopped and auto-attacking. At any rate, that's sort of what you can expect out of this. Would I recommend this build as a starter? Absolutely not. You need way too many things to get this kind of a build going. Of Barb builds that I would play on launch, I would probably recommend a Flay Rend build, just a basic bleed build. It's going to scale up a lot faster without gear, and if you can get any of the gear, including this piece, you can just be rending and you'll be doing substantially more damage. And you don't need to worry so much about things like Fury generation or crit chance or sustain. You can just slap a rend on something and kill it. Yeah, at any rate, I just wanted to share this build because I know Barbs have been getting some hate. I haven't seen anybody put out a coherent Whirlwind build. There's been, we'll just say there's been some subpar build guides. So just to give you an idea of if you want to play Whirlwind, what kind of items you want to be looking for or potentially saving on launch. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. What's going on, guys? I just wanted to include a bit of footage of me fighting the world boss Ashava on this barbarian. I feel like it gives you a better idea of what kind of damage you can do, because on T2 difficulty you can rarely channel for long enough to get your crit chance bonus up. And there are some other bonuses for channeling your Whirlwind for a while that just don't really come through just doing a dungeon. So I think this is a better representation of kind of what you can expect. I also played absolutely awful during this Ashava, and so you can sort of see how much damage the Barb can take with the gear that I was showing off. Yeah, I'll just let this play out with the normal game sound and enjoy.